Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Hermit Skies, and if you've been enjoying this series, leave a like as always. Thank you for that support. That's how YouTube work, you know, you press that button, it makes a difference, and thank you in advance. Appreciate the support, and let's jump into it. In this episode we're going to be doing something very cool. Oh yes, we are. We got to get some dragon eggs. That's what we got to get, because our old fusion crafting thing that we're doing over here will require some dragon eggs in order for us to upgrade the solar panels that is powering our base. So if we jump up here, up the top you will see these solar panels. The next ones will require dragon eggs. And I was thinking, do you know what? I don't want to go fighting no dragon eggs again. I want to automate this, and that's what we're going to attempt to do. We're going to attempt to automate the killing and spawning of the wither dragon. I have no idea if any of this is going to work. I've just got some rough ideas in my head, and I've been doing some work. Yeah, I've been doing some work, and it would appear that I have also been doing some derp as well, because these are supposed to be set to capture mode. Jeez. Too many mobs. I know there's too many mobs. They're everywhere. Jeez. Oh, okay, so we need feathers. So I went to the mining dimension to capture a chicken and a soul vial. While I was over there, I thought I'd pick up some pigs and some cows and some sheep as well. I mean, that means that we can get leather, we can get wool if we need it, and then we can get pork chops, which are probably not so useful, right? Here's the thing, I could make a passive animal farm. I like to do things different in this series, and so we're going to use our system over here, which was for beheading creatures. We're not trying to behead these, we're just trying to get the feathers from the chicken. So I figured we could use the same system, store these animals up in soul vials, and slaughter them inside of that thing. I'm realising this is a cruel episode, okay? But it is just a game after all, right? I'd never do this to a real chicken, jeez. That would be such a cruel thing to do, wouldn't it? Now, inside of here, we do have a sword for beheading creatures. I don't think you can actually behead these and get a head drop. Like, we're not even after that anyway, are we? See, we only got wool. This time, we only got some pork chops, or maybe we didn't even get any. And you, stop trying to run away. Anyway, this means that we could use the lever system like we have over here to just spawn the animals on demand and get the things that we want. However, I'm thinking I might set up a different sword over here, one that has looting on so you can get more drops from it. But at the same time, you know, this is kind of infinite, so we don't really need to mess around with that. You lot were trying to hide away, weren't you? You saw X coming around with his sword, and you thought, let's hide over here, because we want to avoid that fella today. So anyway, that's going to help us get some feathers. I have been working on crafting tons and tons of soul vials, so over here we should have... let's see what's going on there. That went the wrong way around, didn't it? Yes, solarium, and then we're making fused quartz as well. And that's what we need to make soul vials. So loads of this stuff all over the place at the moment. Just need to gather that up and craft all of it. But yes, the feathers. We need the feathers for this mob right here. Okay, so if we're going to farm the Ender Dragon, my first thought was to use the mob fan to try and push it and keep it in the same place so that we can do damage to it automatically. So if we want to make this thing, all of that's pretty easy, pretty fine. But then if we want to make the upgrades, aha, look, we need feathers. So that's why we are making this little farm up the top here, so we can get some feathers together. Okay, that should be the last one. There's also a chicken down here that managed to survive. I found it because I kept picking up an egg, and then I was like, oh, there must have been one that fell down the gap. Now, what is the best way to get back into the middle here? We really don't have many little, like, what would you call them? Maintenance door. Yeah, we need little maintenance doors here and there. And we need to chisel on bits away that glowstone. I don't know why it's been left there, to be honest. All of the redstone should have been set up. This one has considerably less of those and doesn't appear to be doing anything. Now, why would you not be putting more of those down there? Bacon in a bottle, pig. Is that technically what this is as well? Bacon in a bottle? It is. Just, what? So why have I now got a bacon in a bottle? Maybe that's like a rarity thing. Let's put it down. Okay, so occasionally one will spawn with the name bacon in a bottle. That is going to cause more problems than it solves, right? Also, I have forgot something very important here. You might be able to guess. These things had storage downgrades on, right? And that's why they're still going past their regular amounts. Okay then, that's not what I'm looking for. So downgrade is the word. We got 2 of them available. Anyway, what I'm going to do is turn this thing on now. We'll start getting our feathers. We'll be able to craft loads of those upgrades, and then we will be able to go to the end and try and automate this. So that should be more than enough to get us started right there. There's probably a few other things we're going to end up needing, like redstone and stuff to time things, and we'll bring a couple of stacks of endstone as well, as I want to build this with something that the Ender Dragon can't destroy. Well, it could destroy these blocks, but it can't destroy endstone, so if we're going to have like redstone and stuff running around, then it's good to have that. Let's also grab an angel block so we can start building up in the sky. The first thing that we're going to have to do, though, is actually fight the Ender Dragon. So I've got the Carbon Shuriken, and actually what we'll do is we'll turn this off for now, and we'll grab the sword as well, as we need to figure out where exactly it spawns so that we can build around it. So this should be fairly simple. There's supposed to be a torch there as well, because the dragon egg drops over at one side, and it should land on the torch. So I've brought with me an ender chest and an absorption hit popper to pick that up automatically. Anyway, let's do that, and it's gonna. I think it's literally gonna point to the place where the Ender Dragon appears. And now it's not pointing there. They're sort of pointing up somewhere. Right, there we go. That's the spot that I think it appears. So what we're gonna do is mark that spot with one of those blocks, and we'll take that one back because, yeah, it can be destroyed, right? So it kind of looks like that block there. What we're gonna do is just move over a little bit and observe how close it is to that centre circle. Just below it is where it would appear to be. Right, and that thing is insanely loud, isn't it? But, oh, and the island's gone really, really dark. And it's shooting stuff at me. Anyway, let's kill this sucker and start to make a farm. So that's where the Ender Dragon dropped. What is that red particle effect? We need a torch over here. I'm going to put one there temporarily so we can break it. Bam, there we go, and then we'll go and put it back at where it was before. So around here what we will need is the ender chest and the absorption hopper. I've got an upgrade of that as well, because it drops some other things like the dragon heart, the infinity booster, and I'm not sure exactly where they drop, but every time the dragon egg is in the same place. Alright, I'm out of these upgrades, the fan width, but of course we can simply craft them. We're going to need 2 more of those. There they are. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. And if we take a step back, most of this should be pretty obvious, right? We are pushing the dragon into this central location, and I've left all of these blocks here so you can kind of see where I've been working and measuring, but also because the Ender Dragon isn't going to break them, and we don't want it to actually touch these other blocks, which is why we got the fans further apart at the bottom. If I put one directly below it, I'm thinking by the time this dragon is dead, it's going to want to go downwards, and the the game will probably just move it, even though other stuff is pushing it around. So then it will break the blocks below it. So I've made this a little kind of wider, and I think it needs to be. Actually, let's just make it shorter rather than wider again. Wow, and yep, that's a thing that can happen now, I guess. Can I get away with that if I'm a little bit lower? Hi. Now I'm not going to be able to place the block. Oh, I can place it facing upwards. Excellent. This is going to be very interesting. So if I move into that space, I should end up in the very middle. Yep, kind of there, you know. Alright, I'm not flying, it's just floating me up and down. Let's double tap spacebar, and it keeps me directly here in the middle. So that seems pretty promising. Now you're probably thinking, X, you're a bit of a derp. How are you going to get out of your own trap that you've made? Well, ender pearls, my friend. Ender pearls. Let's ender pearl down to the bottom. And for this first test, I think all we're going to do is just summon the Ender Dragon again and see what happens. I'm also going to press F3 and B, and that should show us the bounding boxes of things. I want to see how big the bounding box of the dragon is, so it doesn't collide with those two at the moment. And it's actually way bigger than any of that. And it's destroyed it immediately as well. So our first attempt has failed, and now that we know that the bounding box is huge, I guess that means we're going to have to build the same thing again, but even bigger. Huh, I thought it was flying back up there just to spite me, but it does seem to have got caught in and amongst all of this, which gives us a good hint that we're probably going in the right direction and we can control the position of this guy. The other thing is I need to upgrade this Shuriken, and because I'm attacking this and not killing it, it's not getting any XP, so I should probably go to the Nether or somewhere like there and aggravate a bunch of pigmen and just kill them over and over again, because not only do we want unbreaking on this thing, eventually we'll want to give it some sharpness upgrades so it can kill the Ender Dragon quickly. Now this next bit's going to help us as well, actually, because it's doing the death animation and there are fans below it as well. And it looks like it's just going to do the death animation up here. So it won't need to travel all the way downwards. Wow. Okay, that's really, really promising then. If we can get it locked into a place and keep it here, then we'll be able to hit it with a shuriken and kill it up here as well. Awesome. That's really good. So we built a giant box, and I believe that on either side it's about 1 or 2 blocks away from the edge of the hitbox where the Ender Dragon is going to be when it spawns. Although vertically this thing can actually probably be a little bit smaller, and that might just be its downfall here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I go and stand in the middle here, you can see that I can quite easily escape this thing. But if I had a bigger hitbox, it would be a fair bit trickier. So my thinking is that these things, although they're only going to push sort of in a small area in front of them and only so far, they're all going to kind of push the edges of it to keep it in here. And I'm glad I've sort of said that out loud, because it's made me realise that if this thing were to fly up, it could probably fly out as well. So that means that we'll need some distance ones on here, which is that. Let's go 1, 2, 3, just so we have 3 on either side both times around. And then we're going to be ready to spawn this thing, and it's going to be another case of just sitting back and seeing what happens. I've repaired my shuriken so we can use it a little bit more. I haven't been to the Nether and upgraded it yet, though. I've been very focused on what's going on up above us. Alright, it's about 2 more to go, and then it's going to spawn. Moment of truth. Oh, it's so intense. Here we go. Ender Dragon time. And it's trapped, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, it looks very close, though, to touching those fans on either side, doesn't it? It really looks like it could get close. I might even move it back just to avoid that. Wow, it looks like it's, you know, going to collide with it and destroy it. It might not be the center, the outside of the hitbox that needs to collide with it, but that would be my guess. It needs to be the outside. It could be closer to the center that it destroys blocks. And so the next thing we're going to need is a mechanical user just doing this. I think for safety's sake and the possibility of the Ender Dragon doing something funky, we're going to make the square a little bit larger overall. But otherwise we're kind of halfway there now, aren't we? Now what does it do when it rises up? It doesn't destroy anything. Oh, and it drops the dragon egg there this time. Fascinating. I wonder if that last one that we killed dropped it all the way down at the bottom. It could have dropped it in a different location. If we open up this thing and type dragon, we have 3. Yes, so I started with 1, I've killed 2, and then there's another one there. So it did in fact pick it up, but it might also drop it on this or on the one down below. Well, this will help us get the shuriken leveled up, but I am spending a fair bit of time roaming around trying to find mobs. You know, a better location might mean there's lots of pigmen ready to spawn and walk towards you, but I can actually think of a better location. We got to think modded. I reckon the Deep Dark might be a good place to go. I've left the hitbox thing on, which is kind of cheaty. Then again, what in modded isn't really cheaty. This will be alright. A fair amount of mobs are coming after me. Skeletons, though. The skeletons keep shooting me and knocking me back, which can be a bit of a pain. There's no point shooting at the Enderman. And there we go. Look, quite a few of them are coming in here. So this is probably the place where we'll do the leveling up. So a question has arisen. How far do we want to take this project? These end crystals, we could easily farm the glass out of nothing using power. We can get the ghast tears through sieving, and of course we're already farming nether stars, so in theory we could craft all of this stuff up and pump it into each of these mechanical users, which are linked to some redstone receivers. Okay, they're set to only activate on a pulse. I don't know if the place block and this setup right here would actually work, but that's kind of how it would work for the player to do this, right? And anyway, with that transmitter right there, it'll send a signal to all of those. So what I'm thinking is, when I leave this running, I think I just want it to run for a certain amount, and that amount will be defined by the amount that we put in here. I've set it to upper left only, but we could also put it to random as well and store in like 9 of them. If it just so happened I wanted 9 stacks of dragon eggs, you know, and then when it runs out, that's the end of it. But what we need to do is automate getting a signal down there, and so I'm thinking when we harvest the dragon egg, we want to detect us picking that up and sending it through, and that's where we'll use the redstone transmitter. So currently we're using this absorption hopper, so I reckon if this went into a chest with a comparator on before it went through to this ender chest, then that would be the way to go about it, right? We could send that signal to the redstone transmitter, but for now we're just going to use it to activate this farm. So over here, Going to plop that down, going to put a lever behind it, and you'll notice the change that I've made is to move all of these back. They've also been given this little thing right here. So we're kind of ready, but we've got one more thing to do, and that is this mechanical user. We're actually going to leave this running around the clock to simplify everything, okay? So far the setup has been super simple. Let's keep it that way, I'm thinking. So if we chuck this thing in right here, you'll see that it shoots over the edge, and when it does that, it falls into a hole, and that hole goes down very far, and basically this falls into the void. I'm going to get hit by my own shuriken at some point. So those entities get discarded automatically. I like using the word automagic, but now I start to use it too often. That isn't really automagic, is it? That's just some automatic stuff going on right there. So that will hit the Ender Dragon when it's there, and when it's not, it should go into the void. But it also might hit and deflect off of the Ender Dragon as well, so that'll be interesting to see. But as of right now, we're going to hit this switch, which should activate the thing down below. And it hasn't done, so obviously the way that I've set it up here at the bottom isn't good enough. So we need to troubleshoot this. Here is what I can't do. I can't move it with a piston. It's very difficult to place this facing into the block. I think it's got to click onto the block itself. So another angle in which we could do that from. Do you know what? I've just realised, rather than do it like this, which could possibly end up with the thing exploding, let's go in from the side like that. There we go. We can just use this corner space. Okay, so now if we go for right-click, place block, use item on block. There we go. That's the way you place it. And look at the hitbox of this thing. The block would have been inside of it, which could have caused some problems. Did that just go into my inventory? I think what we'll do is we'll put another setup like this down at the bottom, and then that way we can catch it if it falls down, because I'm in the area at the moment. We want this thing to run when I'm not even here. Alright, so only one upgrade at the top here, and that's because I've removed 2 of them, but I've also lowered this down by 2 blocks, and I've raised the bottom by 2 blocks as well. Done the same thing in the middle, so if we give this thing a flick... Oh, I love that we can remotely do that. That is truly amazing. This is looking very reliable. However, it seems to spend more time getting closer to this side over here, and that could be because that's the direction we're shooting in. Again, very worried about it breaking the block. That looks very uncomfortable. And once again, look at what it's done. It's put it in the same place even though we've lowered this down. So I think what we're going to need here is like a piston contraption that fires every so often. And if it were to do that, if it were to fire every so often, it might also get broken by the dragon being put here, as the dragon egg is just, you know, replacing whatever is already there. Right, let's perform this magic again. I love that every single time. And now we've got a sequencer, and you can see how it's set up. Loop 1, so it ignores any redstone, and just every time it goes through and it gets to the end, it's going to activate the piston. So it possibly could break it, but if it does, it's going to break the piston head when it's extended, and then this thing is going to give it an update, which should fix the piston in theory. So I think that's going to be reliable. We'll see how it performs. The next thing after this is to get this absorption hopper to pass the item through a chest, which means we can activate this thing again once we've got the dragon egg, and then the farm will be fully automated, which would be quite incredible. Alright, there it goes again. And straight away that happened, by the way. And now this thing is jumping all over the place. I don't know if you saw it, but the dragon egg was there. Second later, the piston sorted it out. And then there's other items that drop directly after it that I think this thing picks up. Now, it is getting XP, which we might need to void. There might be other items that go through this thing as well, but it's all after it dies. I'm a little worried about us having some crystals already down here, and then the thing trying to put some more down there, which could cause some explosions and break the mechanical users. But I think we're basically just going to have to leave this thing running to find out. So we have a downgrade here, so it only can take one item at a time. My thinking was it might help just in case this thing picks it up really quickly before the comparator can detect it, but I'm guessing if that's going to be a thing, the downgrade probably doesn't make a difference to it. However, you saw there the comparator definitely got the signal. So technically, I believe this thing is ready to be fully automated, so if this works, we might just jump into a time lapse and watch this thing do its magic. Moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. The dragon egg might have already gone there, which means there might be a need for a delay if the dragon egg, or sorry, the dragon is still in the area. So these things have popped up down below, so it did happen very quickly. Right, but it's not going to activate because the dragon was still alive, so we need a delay as well. And then there's that thing happening. Sometimes all you need is just a bunch of repeaters. Tried to do a bunch of complicated stuff, that didn't really work out. And it looks like that's not going to be long enough of a delay. It's going to be pretty close though. So a few extra repeaters and that'll be fine. Wow, we were really close to getting that right the first time there. So peeps, I think our adventures here in the end are now concluded, and I recorded a huge time lapse, so big I don't think Sony Vegas can actually render it at the right speed to put it in the video. It just seems to crash the program. I wanted to see what it would look like before I started recording again. So we must have killed about 20 of them in a row and then this thing stopped. But I had to make a modification, and that was to make this thing activated with a redstone signal. So the item goes into there, that means this comparator can stay on. It goes all the way over, comes all the way back, and then it lets it go through and it unpowers. It worked perfectly. Couldn't really see why it broke on the video because I was getting shot with the dragon breath, so I was slowly getting pushed further and further away. And then I came back onto the world, started editing the video, and I just happened to have left myself standing over the top of this thing, and my jetpack and my battery have drained themselves of power. And I broke a block, didn't I? And that summoned the Ender Dragon. So this thing's going to start again. Okay, I will actually have to turn it off now because my plan was to log out. So let's just disable that for now and kill this one last Ender Dragon. And then that, rather predictably, happened. Yep, I got pushed off the top by the Ender Dragon. At least it's going to be easy to get back here, I guess. I made it back to the base, safe and sound, had no trouble getting my items back in the end, and I gotta say, that farm is amazing. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and obviously, it has some flaws, and I could spend a lot more time over there trying to make it fully automated, but with a little bit of supervision, it can run. And check this out, we've got plenty of dragon eggs to spare. And I've got some in this chest over here, because the next thing we need to do is use those dragon eggs, as we're going to be doing a whole bunch of fusion crafting and upgrading to the next tier of solar panel, which is the draconic solar panel. So these are the various different stages that we have to go through. We want to upgrade from wyvern to fusion so we can craft something for that solar panel. So we've got these materials right here. This is where we needed the dragon egg, and we got to make the wyvern cores. So you can see the wyvern cores there, then that's our fusion bit. Now the rest of this I believe is for the solar panel, so we got to make 4 wyvern cores, and then we got to make this draconic energy core right here. That thing can just be crafted, it's nice and easy, but this requires the draconic tier, which is why we're upgrading them, and then we need to make an awakened core as well, and that's why you see a ridiculous amount of materials down here. Now I've gone over this several times figuring out all the steps, and I'm sure that there's something that I've probably missed, but that's what I'll be doing now. I'll be upgrading all of this and doing a whole bunch of crafting. That's the last one. The last Vivian core. Apparently I can't say that word correctly. Still got all of this to do. That took some time. So I figured I'd come in here and start messing around with the base a little bit. And now that we've got a mega torch down below, I've actually been removing lighting around some of the edges, so some parts appear a little bit darker. I've been setting this up over here for an expansion, and I also removed that like glass frame that we had just over here. I felt like it looked a little bit odd, and the way the base was going, we were going to have it in every corner, so I added it over here, removed it from there, and we got plenty of space now prepped for our final projects on this floor. But anyway, got to focus on this right now, so the next step would be to take those iron cores and actually start to unplug some of this stuff and upgrade them to the next level. My confusion is warranted. This one uses 10. That's the first time I've seen 10 ingredients for a recipe. Although, yeah, technically I've seen it before, but now I actually realise as I go to make this that it's 10. So there's those 2 on that side, and then these 2 things in the middle. And let's go. None of this has made a dent on our power yet. Yeah, we are yet to see any of this crafting really suck away from our battery over here. But we're going to take it offline for a second, as we're going to zap up the solar panels. So now we should see the power start to drain at an alarming rate. But we are ready now to craft these. And I actually didn't put enough materials into here. Oh, I left those over there. Okay, that kind of explains why I had 4 less. But I thought that we were doing this recipe once. Of course, we're doing it twice because we need 4 of those solar panels, and then we'll have enough to make 3 of those. So that's the way that it's working, and all we've got to do now is craft that. This thing is done. Excellent. And there it is, our Dracolic solar panels. Those should give us a reward. Excellent. We got another reward for upgrading those, so we got 2 loot crates to open. And this will have doubled our power generation from about 256k to 512. And those things look very fancy and cool being purple. And of course, we've now got a new target, a new thing to aim for, which is this right here, the chaotic crafting of the solar panels, which requires a chaos shard, which I believe drops from the, what's it called? The chaos ender dragon thing. Do you know what, peeps? It's been a long day. I'm struggling to talk. Let's open some loot chests. Excellent, there we go. So, 2 loot chests, fingers crossed for some good stuff, peeps. An Invar hammer, don't think that's particularly difficult for us to make if we needed one. And 4 wyvern cores. Could have done that before, you know, before I opened the loot chest. Anyway, that is going to be it from me this episode of Hermit Skies. I do hope you have enjoyed it, and if you have, leave a like on the video. As always, thank you for the support on these episodes, and I'll see you in the next one. So ciao for now, bye-bye.